Internet. Boop boop boo doo 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 doo. Boop 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 boo doo boop boo doo 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 doo. Boop 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 boo doo doo boo doo 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 boop boo doo doo boop 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 boo doo doo boop 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 boo doo doo boo doo doo boop 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 boo doo. Scott Queering, number 1 to the chat. What up? And Luke's Aquatics, a quick second. What is happening, everybody, is Friday morning-ish. It's Friday morning-ish, morning-erd-ish. Isher morning-erd-isher. It is everyone is getting ready for the weekend. Everybody's getting ready for the weekend. Yeah. So we're doing an early Friday live stream because we're getting ready for the weekend too. Because we like to weekend here in Tacoma. We like to do that weekend stuff. And KZ Ellis is here, and Nisi is also here. Hello, Internet. How are you? How are you, Internet? How are you doing on a lovely, beautiful Friday out here? The rain has gone away. We had one day of 2 hours of rain. And Luke is already freaking out about the kitty litter substrate. I got it written down right here, Luke. Don't worry. We will get to the kitty litter substrate. That is on my list right here, right directly in front of me. So we're going to be getting to that. And we got a couple other things to get to today, and we'll run through some stuff, and we'll get some Q&A. Which one of the Q&As is Luke's kitty litter question? And we'll be running through that. It's been a long time since I did that, and we'll look through, and we'll get to the kitty litter stuff here. But it is an old school method to kitty litter. Your boy, the deceased, what's his name? Amano, I think, was the guy that introduced that idea. But yeah, we'll definitely get to that stuff. And welcome everybody for a Friday. And I think KZ was out asking if this is the Maltese Falcon. Yeah, basically. Wanted to get to that real quick. You know, we're going to talk about Maltese Falcons. Ow, my arm is... I got my arm caught in something yesterday, and it's bugging me. Sorry about that. It's a little itchy. Let's see here. Okay, so I got that pulled up. That's working properly. Oh, cool. We got all the 1s and 2s clicked. All right. Well, that's always good. It's always good to have the things working properly in the computer paradigm over here while things are ongoing. My arm is feeling weird. I don't know. But one thing I wanted to mention today, that we're going to try to go on a little adventure to find some acrylic rod in the Tacoma area, which used to be an easy trip for me to rage out and get stuff like that. And I'm sitting on my electrical tester. Sorry, that beeping noise is that. Hold on a second here. I'm sitting on this stupid button. And do I always have an electrical tester in my pocket? You darn right. But sorry, I'm sitting on the button, and it keeps turning on and off, and it makes beeping sounds, which bugs me. Beep, beep, from the pocket. Yeah, but we're going to go find some acrylic rod today so we can do a little bit of work in the reef. We're going to actually drill some acrylic rod and build up our scape a little bit better than it is now. I've decided to opt out from using a lot of the whatchamacallit, the hold fast, that putty glue. I was not getting exactly what I wanted results wise out of that. So we're gonna go the gangster route and drill holes and do acrylic rod with super glue. But those of you that are the freshwater fan base and are probably getting a little tired of me messing around with the reef, don't worry. We have stuff coming up very soon with the freshwater tank. So, but let's bust into some of these questions today. All right. The kitty litter substrate has been around for quite a while. It was one of the old school ways of doing it. So when I tried this probably I want to say 7-8 years ago or something along those lines. So there is some definite stuff to look out for these days because most of the kitty litter available is self-clumping, which is you do not want that. That is exactly what you do not want is the clumping stuff, and it is very difficult to find the pure clay version, the kind of old school kitty litter. And that was even back, just 7 or 8, 9 years ago, whenever I did this, originally, it was difficult to find then. So I'd imagine at this point in time, it's probably a little bit difficult to find now because almost all of it is the self-clumping kind, which is not very effective. And as Scott was saying there, he's used it before. It does have a high cation exchange ratio, but it was messy when I used it also. It was definitely not something that was realistically worth the trouble of trying to get my hands on it. And it did save a couple of dollars. I think realistically, if you were doing a gigantic project, that it might work out to be saving some money. But I didn't find the savings to really be worth dealing with it. But you also have to make sure it's not. Hold on, I'm reading through a couple of old forum posts here, but that are reminding me of some stuff. You do also have to make sure that it's not deodorized, and you also need to use a cap on top of it, typically sand or gravel or something on top as the cap. It's a great rooting source, and I'm trying to remember the exact brand that I used to use. I'm like looking through my email here to try and see if I can find it. I probably should have tried to find this ahead of time, but of course we're doing it live. Luke is saying use the Walmart special kitty no clumping, all natural, no chemicals. Safety Zorb is Scott. That is a perfect example of it. The Safety Zorb definitely works pretty well too. I think the reality for me is that I ended up putting in so much legwork that it became less worth it to use these kinds of products. The one that I definitely recommend was the shoot, I'm having a brain fart right now. What is that called? It was the laterite for baseball fields. What the heck is that stuff called? All right, for baseball field. Here we go. What is that stuff called? It has a name, and I'm going to look it up here. Okay. What is that stuff called? Turface. Yeah, there you go. And Luke already knows what Turface is. Yep. I used Turface for a long time. Turface seemed to be the better version above the kitty litter, but also they stopped selling the black variety. They didn't make the black anymore. I think they make red and like a natural color now or something like that. So they didn't make the black anymore. So I kind of walked away from Turface. Also, mainly, like I said, the legwork is what really turned me off from using that stuff because I just spent so much time driving around to different places or trying to source where it's at, this or that and the other thing. And you know, for somebody like me, that all that time just screwing around, shopping around, trying to price stuff, this and that and the other thing, is why I ended up transitioning into using ADA and Fluval's, the shrimp stratum. That's what I ended up moving into, because I looked at it this way. Yeah, it is a higher price point, but I just order it, get it delivered, get it done, and it does have a real long-term use. So the biggest qualms that most people had is that they felt that stratum and that kind of stuff didn't last very long. In my experience, I find that it does last quite a long amount of time. I have some stuff that's at least like 5 years old and is still cruising along, doing pretty well. So as Luke was saying, you'd love to use Aquasoil, but it's out of your price range. I get that. I understand that a lot of people have a price range. So do I. I definitely have a price range also where I have to operate in. I definitely have a budget that I have to operate in, and it's not a huge one. But you know, on from my side is that if I spent all this time cruising around trying to find cheap stuff, I basically could just pick up a little more work and make the money and do that instead. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's definitely a trade-off if you're going to be out there working and hustling to make money so that you can trade that back, because you lose that time also. But the better performance definitely came in as more of a value, realistically, in the long run. Basically, what was going on. Scott's bringing up one of my favorite substrates of all time, fluorite. Fluorite is a pretty cheap price point, along with Eco Complete. Those both will work a really long time, and they're cheaper than Stratum or Aquasoil for sure. You can probably get about twice as much, maybe even a little bit more than twice as much with those two products, and they work out quite well. I'm honestly having a little bit of trouble with all the fluorite that is in my my 240, the aged fluorite that is in there, and I'm actually going to be showing you guys how I'm going to be dealing with that in down the long run here. Luke, if you are a real strong DIY kind of guy, I would look into hold on, let me see if I can find a link here. I would look into doing mineralized soil substrate is what I would look into doing if that's what you if you want to do it really if you want to do it really DIY, I would do this is what I would do. I would do mineralized soil for your aquariums. This would be a lot cheaper. You can pick up the stuff. It's not dirt, it's mineralized soil. You need to add clay to it. You need to add a bunch of stuff to it. Here is a really good article right here on aquatic plant. I don't know if it's cool for me to post this or not, but Aquatic Plant Central right there. The forum link is right there in the chat. You can click onto that and see how it goes. It's about a 10-step process, and you have to dry the soil, clean the soil, add clay to it, add water back to it, bake it, and do that kind of stuff. That would be kind of the best way to go with doing this process. This isn't the same as dirting. This isn't what's her name? Oh, Wallstads. This isn't like the Wallstad method, but you really end up with a really nice product. But you're going to put the legwork in to do this. This isn't something that you just go buy off the shelf and put directly into your tank like the Wallstad method is. Is essentially what the Wallstad method is you're going to get some topsoil, you're going to get some sand, you're going to make a cap, and then you're done. Whereas mineralizing the soil is a much longer process. It's about a 10-step process. You have to dry things, and like I said, you have quite a bit of stuff to do, but it can be cheap, and you can get a really good product out of it. You're essentially kind of making your own Aquasoil, realistically, and it definitely does the DIY side of things. It definitely will do the DIY for you, and you'll definitely get a good result if you can follow those steps and get that stuff together. Cichlid Nez is here. What up? So is Renan. Renan arrived. Good to see you guys on a Friday for sure. We're right now just talking about the kind of the pros and cons of some substrates that are out there, whilst I have brain farts. But that's what's going on. I would say the mineralized soil, it would be the best thing to do if that's what, if you're really wanting to be in the DIY, if you're wanting to stay cheap. A lot of the stuff that is for the mineralized soil, you can acquire really, really cheaply. Sometimes free. A lot of it is free and stuff. So that's the route I would recommend you to go down if that's where, you really want to stay DIY, you want to stay cheap. That would be the best way to do it. I don't recommend people to dirt their tank because long term it's just kind of a disaster problem, realistically. And that's opinion, man. If one person out there manages to pull it off well, that doesn't mean that it's easy. How's that saying go? The one success doesn't, or proves the rule, or whatever. Yeah. Okay. So we're 16 minutes in. We got to throw out the this little advertising portion with air quotes. I don't want to have any real advertising. We don't want to have any commercials or any of that kind of stuff on here. So there are ways to support the channel. Hit the like, subscribe, and share this video out. You can do that, and that's the free way. Another free way to do it is to go to darkstararts.com. That is my website where you won't be attacked by any kind of nonsensory or spam bots or any of that kind of BS. You don't need to sign up for anything. You can click through the Amazon banner on darkstararts.com. Go to Amazon and buy whatever you're going to buy. High heels, pantyhose, and Scotch tape. And have yourself a weird weekend. It would definitely be something that anyone could do. An easy way to also do that is to show up to the live streams and chat. And if you feel like it, go ahead and bump your question to the top by super chatting by clicking down here at the bottom. And just make sure you have Jeff Bezos' routing numbers figured out before you throw down $1, $2, $3 billion. Just make sure you have that stuff figured out ahead of time. I can't tell you how to do it. You're just going to have to be a wizard and figure that out yourself. Oh, Sashimi Whiskey is here. What's up, my man? The other way to support the channel is to go to the Patreon right there. Just posted it into the chat. That is the Patreon page where you can patronize and be a patronizing patronizer whilst patroning patron. You go there, you notice that we have some pretty low tier goals that we're trying to hit, which is eliminating all advertising and also affording some new equipment so we can have some better video option things here as we move forward, and trying to get some guests onto this live stream here, and expanding what we're doing. That is the short-term goal. The long-term, big, huge, ornate goal is to crowdsource and fund enough funding to get a 22,000-gallon tank that would be a modular tank. We'd be able to put it on a semi, drive it around from city to city, that kind of stuff for the future projects. So that is a big project. But there also is small projects that we're needing a little bit of help funding. If you can do that, cool. If not, that's cool too. All right, right on. We got through it in a record-setting 2 minutes and 23 seconds. Renan S. has a Marineland MagnaFlow canister filter coming in the mail for your 55-gallon tank. Have you ever used this filter? And any opinions or tips on using this filter? I have personally dealt with Marineland canister filters in the past. As you guys know, I am not a huge fan of canister filters or even hang on the back filters anymore. I feel like they are This is going to sound super douchey and rude. So let's put that at the front so that people know. They're generally overpriced and don't necessarily even do what they're supposed to be doing. They end up kind of made out of cheap parts and whatnot, and they kind of freak me out. I've had them leak. I've had all sorts of issues with them in the past. It really depends on what you're going to use it for, would be how I would recommend moving forward with your new canister filter. I know a ton of people love them. I know that a ton of people love them. I don't. And one of the biggest reasons I don't like them is that they don't operate off of gravity. One of the big reasons I like to have a sump is that they are a gravity-fed situation more often than not, that the pump is returning the water up to the tank, but all the water coming down into the tank is all operating through gravity, which, if gravity goes away, we're going to have much bigger problems than our fish tanks disappearing or our fish tanks not being filtered properly. The whole earth would be on fire, and we'd all be obliterated. So, yes, I count on gravity to operate a lot of that process. Obviously, the pump moves the water back up to the tank, but if it does turn off or fail or have any kind of problems like that, it won't leak water anywhere. Like, leaking water somewhere is always just a bad news inside of any kind of building, and I go to not great lengths, but I go to lengths to make sure that there aren't leaks anywhere. Bulkheads and glue fittings and that kind of stuff generally doesn't ever end up with any kind of leak, just because they're kind of a higher quality fitting and stuff like that. As I said, with a canister filter, you're constantly taking it apart and putting these parts back in and all that kind of stuff. You realistically, with all those parts being taken apart, put back together, taken apart, put back together, vibrating 24 hours a day, all of the time, with warm water going through, you could definitely end up with a leak. And that was my experience with all of the canister filters I used for a long time. I tried to get into the canister filter thing. Even the FX series canister filters, which, as you guys know, are super expensive, high-end, whatever. I just became completely disenchanted with the fact that they would break over time. They would just have issues. You have lots of little plastic pieces fitting together that need to go, and they will get worn and they will get broken down. You have weird shaped and sized O-rings that are like yay big to replace if you need to replace them at any point in time. And all that kind of stuff adds up to me just going, screw this. I don't, it's too much of a hassle and a headache for me to get into them. But if I do need to do a canister filter type thing, as you guys were watching last week, I got in some new filter housings for some of the water filtering and stuff that I'm going to be doing, or I have already been doing. So those canisters are the ones that I recommend to use if you were going to be using a pump or anything like that. Those are the ones that I use as a canister thing if I'm going to do charcoal, or if let's say that I'm going to transfer some biomedia to another tank. I'll actually put the biomedia in those canisters and then run an actual PVC pipe to it, running from a pump and going back into the tank to actually get that biomedia ready, and then I can just move that whole unit over to another tank to get the biomedia to jump into that whole situation. If I was running a bunch of small tanks, as Cicla was saying, going sump is way better for bigger tanks, for sure. For big tanks, honestly, run a sump. It's just going to be the best bet, realistically. I would also give the recommendation to, even on small tanks, if you were going to run a bunch of small tanks, I would always go sponge filter. That is the direction that I would go. Oh, and Akash is here. What is up? I got to say hi. What's up, Akash? And I'll get back to talking what I was talking about. If you're going to run a bunch of small tanks out there, I would definitely go the sponge filter route. That is just so much simpler and easier to run in the small tanks. The only downside is all the air bubbles going up, which aesthetically makes me lose my mind. But it's pretty easy to take those out real quickly. If you, like, say you were going to do some photography or possibly some video or whatever, you can just pull that sponge filter out, shoot whatever you were going to do, and then put it back in. So a bunch of small tanks, I would run sponge filters. That's the recommendation that I would give to just about anybody, including myself. That's where I would go if I had a bunch of small tanks. That's what I would do, because you can run a big manifold and run a ton of tanks and not waste a bunch of electricity running canister filters or hang-on back filters. So a lot of you know that I'm a big fan of the old AquaClear hang-on back filters if you do need to go that route. But I honestly can't. I honestly couldn't give you guys a perfect canister filter or anything out there to go with, because my experience nowadays is fairly lacking. Like I said, I spent a lot of times trying to get them perfect, and trying to find the perfect one, or trying to deal with old ones, new ones, all that kind of stuff. Hold on a second. Sorry, I've got something stuck in my tooth. It's bugging me. I could never find a canister filter that was realistically up to par and was going to last long enough. So I never went that route. But the hang-on back was the one thing that I found that worked out the best in regards to price point was those AquaClear. Those AquaClear filters, they lasted a really long time. They worked really well, and they were pretty versatile with what kind of media you could run in them and whatnot. But Flynn's Fish Room has been hearing lots of good things about this channel. Just subbed. Oh, right on. Right on. Welcome, Flynn's Fish Forum. Oh, I think I said Fish Room. Sorry. Fish Forum. My reading skills on Friday are probably pretty lacking, let's be honest here. Akash has a plan for his sponge filter idea. That's a plan for his fish room. Honestly, that's the best route to go if you were going to run a bunch of small tanks. And that's my opinion. You know, if you have your own opinion or whatever, that's fantastic. But as far as running a bunch of small tanks, that's the route I would go. I've seen it work many times, and it works out very well and is really easy to maintain, honestly, and pretty cheap, actually. I did notice some sponge filters came up on my Amazon because somebody was buying a bunch of them. They're actually all the way down to, hold on a second. Oh no, I don't think I can't go to that right now, but I think they were all the way down to like $3 a piece or something like that. So if you're talking about like I think they were like $3.48 or something. So like $3.50, a little bit of air hose, and you're just running one pump. You can run a ton of tanks. You know, if you're thinking about, it's like $4 or $5 to set up each one. If you set up a big manifold and whatnot, that could actually be really cost effective, and as Cyclid is saying, save a lot of money off of your power bill, because you really only be running one air pump, which doesn't take that all that much. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way that I would go with that. Rurutu has showed up, and he's asking questions about a dog. It's called a tail and not a butt. I don't understand. Rurutu, sometimes you confuse me, my friend. But, hey, we all got to be confusing sometimes. So, well, hopefully we've gotten some good information. Let's see what we got here for some of the other questions. Of course, I've only got them sort of pulled up. Got them pulled up on the other computer, but I can't reach over there right now. It's let's see here. Boop. Let's open this. Then I can, if I open it over here, I can copy and paste the question into the chat. Aquarium Cop has showed up. What's up? Cat Dog. What a great show Cat Dog was. I bet anybody out there could do the math on how old I am. I'm too old to have watched that show, but it was a great show. Oh, we have some comments here that I need to respond to from Matthew Weber and Potate Bro, some of our lovely moderators that are so good at reviewing what the hell I talk about and getting back to me at some of the stuff that I talk about, for sure. So let's see here. Potato was talking about, he messaged me saying, cool thing about anemones is that they can reproduce by splitting, but if they are in real good shape, they will cloud spawn. You can sex them when they spawn based on what they release. White cloud is male, light foggy gray is female. So at some point in time, we might be able to sex the anemone that we added to the reef. Hopefully we'll actually be adding some more anemones here later on as we move along with the reef project. I'm stoked about the reef project. It seems to be coming along pretty well. So, but there is a way to sex them if they cloud release. It's basically now you put your hands over your ears if you're squeamish or whatever. But basically, saltwater invertebrates. Anemones, snails, all these kinds of things. They'll basically cloud jizz. There's just really no other way to put it. They just bust loose with some strong jizz into the water, and it is a very unnerving thing to see happen. It definitely is kind of unnerving. You think that they're probably dying or something, like some kind of death rattle, or it's kind of freaky for sure. But that does happen, and that is a way that we can sex whether or not they're male or female. So it actually is really cool if you get a chance to see it. It, like I said, it's a little unnerving if you don't know what's happening. If you don't know what is going on, it is like, oh my God, something totally bad is happening. But it turns out it's just sexy time in the ocean, because the ocean is really big. They gotta get the opportunities out there, if you know what I'm saying. Spread them out, carpet bomb the area. And we got a message from Matt Weber here that says that the plastic dip actually works really well. It took him 3 coats to do his 135. So it looks like I trust Matt Weber. I trust Matt Weber for sure. And if he says the plastic dip's going to work out well, then I'm just going to add another coat on there, and hopefully we'll be good to go with that 75. I'm going to get it drilled as soon as we get another coat on there, or if Vicky thinks that the coating on there right now is good enough for her, then we'll go ahead and drill it and start doing the plumbing today, which I'm excited to get Vicky's tank going, because I love it when Vicky and I get a chance to work together. I know that sometimes I'm cranky and she doesn't think that I want to work with her, but I do, because I love her very much. I bet you she can hear me. Surprises! But I'm stoked to get Vicky's tank going, and then I can start working on the freshwater 180, because we have a bit of a timeline now as to when the new shrimps should be showing up. It's probably going to be 2, 3, 4 weeks, somewhere in that range, maybe 6 weeks at the furthest. But we'll definitely have some cool shrimp coming up here very soon for all of the shrimp followers out there, including myself. We'll have some new colony action going on. One of those will be in Vicky's kind of community colony, that the way that she runs those, which I think is actually pretty cool. It's not exactly my style, but it's fantastic to have somebody who does a different style in the Kahoozy what's it, whatever you want to talk about. And I also need to remember to message Corey today so we can coordinate on the fish for the 240 to get the school of Galaxy Rasboras. Was that what we're doing? Wait, I got it written down somewhere. What's wrong? Yeah, Galaxy Raspberries. Jeez, I just second guessed myself there for a second. To get the big school of Galaxy Raspberries for the 240. So that'll be coming down too, which is cool. And then let's move on. Jonathan Simpson says he's starting to hate his sump, especially after a water change. It's hard to make everything flow smoothly. It's always drain, pump, drain again, pump. It's hard to balance the water level in my sump. Maybe this little 17-gallon sump that came with my 125-gallon aquarium isn't enough. That sounds like... so here was something that I wanted to address that actually kind of ties into our little conversation with the canister filters and stuff earlier, is that if you're undersized or oversized or that, or that kind of stuff, your system needs to be working so that you are using gravity for sure. Gravity is the most important part of the whole system to play in and count on gravity, which is the most kind of important thing. Okay, so we'll talk about this sump for a second. He's got a 135-gallon tank, and it is running on a 17-gallon sump. So that system, just from those sizes of tank, that just sounds like the system is set up wrong. And I would like to talk to Jonathan and just say, hey, it sounds like your system is set up a little bit goofy, and that hopefully there's somebody in your area local that can come over and take a look at it, because it sounds like your overflow is probably not set up right and your return is probably not set up right. And a 17-gallon tank is going to be difficult to run on a 125. Although not impossible. I've done that kind of setup before. It just doesn't leave a lot of space for anything in that sump because it is a pretty small sump, and a 125 isn't a huge tank, but it's definitely sizable enough to put like a 40 or a 55 underneath there and give yourself plenty of space and not have to worry about this pump again, drain again, pump again, drain again crazy, because that is crazy and infuriating. So hopefully that is something that could be worked out. Dwayne Kitchell showing up on a Friday. What's up, Dwayne? What are you doing? Dwayne is asking, Joel, could you talk a little bit about how you go about feeding fry of any kind? Okie dokie artichoke. I'll rub my beard across the mic because I'm just that kind of guy. Yeah, let's talk about feeding fry, because feeding fry is essentially, it's essentially important to any breeding program at all, because obviously the babies need to be fed so that you can end up with having aquacultured whatever you're breeding. You got them to have sex. Now you got them to give birth, and then now you got to keep them going. Right? Now you got to keep them going and keep them well bred. There are many, many ways to feed fry, so let's just pick one, because they all eat different stuff. So let's just pick one way that I do it. One of the easiest ways to do this is through insiphoria feeding. Now, insiphoria is essentially little critters that live in the tank in pretty much any kind of fresh water. And to set up an infusoria, jeez, I don't know if I can say this properly. I'm tripping over my tongue. And Aquarium Cop, we'll get to that in a little bit here. I want to get to that at the end. We're going to talk about that situation here at the end of this video after we talk about breeding these babies. I just want to interject that. Infusoria is the easiest way that I find to feed babies, because culturing it is super easy. I can set up a couple of jars in a window, throw some moss in them, and if the sun is hitting it, you'll get them. You'll get that infusoria going in there. It's basically some dirty tank water. Another easy way to do it would be a gallon jug, like an old milk jug, because they're pretty clear. You can get a lot of sunlight in there. And then you can actually just be pulling that out of that container with like a turkey baster or something like that. Get those out and be dosing those little bit by little bit into your tank. And that is always going to be an option for any fry out there, essentially. Fish or shrimp, anything like that, will eat those and do fairly well. A good covering of like moss always comes in really handy for pretty much any fry, unless they're a cave-dwelling fry. And then at that point, you need a cave. If you have like shell dwellers or something like that, they're obviously going to breed in there, and they're going to keep them in there. But that turkey baster can come in handy because you could feed the infusoria to the area where they're hanging out in the tank. And a great way to feed fry is, for instance, when I used to do the betas quite a bit. I used to breed the betas a lot, and what I used to do is breed mosquito larvae. Mosquito larvae was pretty much the easiest way. To feed all of my beta and the baby beta and all that kind of stuff, because in Washington where I live, if you just leave a bucket of water outside, you will get mosquito larvae, and so it actually is surprisingly easy. You don't even have to go anywhere. Like I said, if you just throw a couple of sticks and some leaves in a bucket, there will be mosquito fry in there. And you just want to make sure that you get them before they hatch and get them into your tank. And those little betas, they definitely will eat the mosquito larvae because they swim around in the water. That was always the easiest way to feed those busters. I know a lot of people do the cultured worms and all that kind of stuff. I never really went that route personally, just because it was like this other project that I didn't really necessarily want to mess with. But the infusoria worked out really well almost in every case. And the mosquito larvae worked out really well also because they're really kind of maintenance free. Like infusoria is just going to show up basically if you have some green water. Realistically, if you have some green water, it's going to work. And then the mosquito larvae were super easy to get because I didn't have to go anywhere to do anything for that, and it just end up with mosquito larvae. And then they're pretty easy to maintain because they'll just keep breeding if there's a couple of them in your tank. And don't worry so much about those mosquitoes if your tanks are in your house or whatever, because those mosquitoes should be hatching with no disease in them. So if you do get bit by them, it's not as bad. Just trust me, it's not as bad. They're like clean mosquitoes, if that makes sense. But that was always the best ways that I found to feed my fry and all that kind of stuff. That was definitely just the easiest way. And Dwayne's doing microworms, rapashi dust, and baby brine frozen food for your rainbow fry right now. We'll add green water. Yeah, the rapashi dust. So like for my shrimp babies, I would normally add the hirakashi brine dust, whatever it is for baby shrimp, and that seemed to work out a little bit fairly well to supplement. But I found it easiest to just go the ecosystem route. If my ecosystem is healthy and those kinds of things, the fry will really get a good chance to succeed. And then the fish that you need to separate the parents out, otherwise the parents, with those types of fish, that was always the most beneficial thing, was just to get the parents and everybody else out of there, or move the fry to another tank and then just keep them rolling that way. And it definitely worked. That worked quite well also with those opportunities that I needed to do. B. Tim's is asking, how do you distinguish between Calumanus worms and I can't even figure out how to say that properly. Hex worms. Hexameta. All right. And so I guess we're going to get into a little bit of parasite treatment. To identify between the two is a little bit odd because any kind of parasite situation and any of that kind of stuff, normally is just going to be problematic, and it's going to be difficult to. Always going to be difficult to treat just about anything. So I don't know if I have time to get into this. All right, I'm going to have to answer this in a longer video. B-Tims, stick with me. I'll have to answer that on a longer video. Eric, I missed the sump talk. Stupid work. Would you have videos on your sump set up for your 55-gallon sump? I do have a bunch of sump videos up, so you can scroll through my videos. You can find some sump videos. I'll be actually highlighting the 2 new tanks that we're setting up. I'll do some highlight videos of setting those up. But B-Tims, I'll get to that parasite thing. We only have a short amount of time here left, and I definitely want to talk about what Aquarium Cop was talking about. If you haven't heard, the Chester, what's his name, from Lincoln Park, killed himself just a couple days ago, like 2 days ago or something like that. Apparently in response to Chris Cornell killing himself just a little while ago. And this is an ongoing problem in the United States and most of the first world countries, you guys. And the typical response that I hear from people is reach out if you're feeling bad. And I'd like to address this a little bit. I understand where people are coming from when they say that if you're feeling bad, you should reach out and talk to somebody. Because I've said it myself. Because you should. You realistically should. But I feel like I want to mention today that the responsibility of the community falls more along the lines of, if you see somebody that you need to reach out to, that's your responsibility as a person. Whether it be a family member or somebody like that. And I will say that my spouse, Victoria, is much better at this than I am. And it's something that I need to get better at. And that is, us that are not feeling bad need to reach out to those people that we can see are feeling bad. That is our job. That is our job as fellow humans on the planet. It's our job to do that. How long that lasts, I don't know. Probably till the end of time. But it is definitely part of us. If we're going to be in a community and we notice that somebody needs some of our help, maybe they're shut in, maybe you haven't heard from them in weeks, it's time to just give them a call. Realistically, with the technology we have now, it's really easy to put out a tiny bit of effort and reach out to those people that have kind of disappeared or whatever. And that, I think, is something that we should all focus on and pay attention to a little bit better in our lives, because we're noticing that a lot of people are killing themselves, and it's not just famous people. I mean, obviously, the famous people is this is a response to the fact that the famous people hit the news because they're famous, right? As I talked about a while ago, Chris Cornell was a big part, because I grew up in Seattle, and Chris Cornell was a big part of the music community. And the thing was, on Monday, I was having a conversation with the guy whose house I painted. He's friends with the sound guy from Soundgarden, and how devastated that dude was when Chris Cornell killed himself. And that's just their sound guy. It's like he lost a friend, but he also lost a boss. It's a strange situation, because I never really listened to Linkin Park. I mean, I know a bunch of their songs or whatever. I was never like a huge fan, but I know a bunch of their music, and they're wildly influential in the direction that rock music went. So let's definitely respect that. Let's respect his musicianship. I'm kind of sad. I'm deeply saddened by the fact that he left 6 kids behind without their papa around, which is kind of uncool. but there's no way back from this, you know, if you do kill yourself. So I'm going to say what I said not to say earlier, which is reach out if you're feeling fucked up or screwed up or whatever. Reach out. But the main point I want to get at is if you notice that there are people out there that need to be reached out to, okay? That's what we need to work on. We don't need to work on telling people that our phone is turned on if you're going to call, right? We need to start reaching out to those people that need to be reached out to, okay? And to hopefully give them a little ray of sunshine on a day that they may or may not have, because, you know, we're finding out that really talented people are heading this wrong way, and that's not just, you know, rich famous musicians or whatever. It's people on a day-to-day basis that there are people, you know, talented people, just everyday Joes that are and Janes that are talented people that are going this route, and it's not gonna end well, guys. So that was kind of the message I wanted to get out there to some people. If that's our job as people, to reach out a little bit. It just is. It's unfortunate that's our job, because you might not want to do it, but it just is. All right. And on a lighter note here, Luke's Aquatics will be in Tacoma in a couple of days. Can I give you my mail? Well, I'm not sure why you would want to give me your mail, but if you are in Tacoma, feel free to hit me up. Anybody out there also, if you're in Tacoma, feel free to hit me up. We could always have a latte or something cool, have a coffee or whatever, and, you know, whatever. I don't know. Would be cool. And Sashimi, go ahead and go bug Corey about his potluck dinner, his potluck barbecue, his potluck whatnot, because I'm going to be going to make a little carne asada Fiesta Friday today. So, you know, you guys should get working on a plan for your potluck thing that you guys want to do. Oh, I know he's in Ohio or whatever. I don't know. But you know, he's your boss, so I can tell you to talk to your boss about doing a cookout, right? All right, cool. So that's it today. Oh, okay. Let me check out this finsbids.com that we just got from Finn's Bids. All right. Well, I'll check out Finn's Bids, Dwayne, and we'll see what comes of that. Whether it's trustworthy or not, it might be. Who knows? But either way, we have no super chats today to say thank you to. So, whatever. I'll post the Patreon here again because shameless self-promotion, I guess. Hans Hotman, what's up? And I got to reload the Patreons here. All right. So the Patreon is in the chat. We don't have any super chatters, so we're going to say thank you to the Patreons because we have a new one today, Sashimi Whiskey. Sorry, I got some in my mouth. We have a new Patreon patronizer, Sashimi Whiskey. We might be back with a live stream tonight. I don't know. We might be back with a video later. I don't know. I can't answer any of this stuff for you. But let's say a big thank you to Long Woo, Steven Scogland, the Aquarium Co-op, Joel Gillett, JT, M. Den Hollander, who was the first patronizer. All right, he holds that title. Sashimi Whiskey, thank you very much. New patronizer, Jennifer J. Sarchino, Matt. God, I gotta figure out how to say this guy's last name. He told me too. He sent me a message to tell me what I gotta say his name. Matt Gilmette. Damn it, I should look that up. Karen KZ Ellis, thank you very much, guys, for coming out. Have a fantastic day out there. Like, comment, subscribe. kiss your babies and tell everybody happy birthday. Kevin, I'm sorry I'm signing off right now, but I love you still, and I'm working on your painting of Sam Elliott. Well, I'm working on the design for it. I'm also working on some design for Flip Aquatics, and somebody was asking about paintings for sale. Go to darkstararts.com and contact me through there if you would like to commission a painting or buy a painting that I have. If you would like to buy one, contact me through darkstararts.com. You just go there. Contact information is right there, and you can get a hold of me. You can email me. You can do all that stuff you want to do with the contacting of the contact information. But Kevin, I'll holler at you later for sure, and we'll have a good Friday. I'm going to go get some acrylic parts so we can put the reef stuff together and pick up some heavy rocks. Got to pick up some landscape rocks, you guys. But can't tell you all about that. You know what I'm saying? All right. Later. Where's that button at? Later.